Here we have the story of a 15-year-old young boy named Kenshi Masaki. For those of you who are familiar with the Tenchi Muyo series, this Masaki is supposed to be the younger half-brother of Tenchi Masaki. But since this one is a separate story, we'll only be focusing on the events of this spin-off series. So Kenshi Masaki is kidnapped and brought to the world of Geminar. He's obviously as confused as Jimmy next door and not sure how he'd get back to Earth. Lucky for him, it's relatively simple. All he needs to do is assassinate the newly crowned empress of the Styriu Empire, and he'll be good to go. He's assigned a giant mech called Sacred Mechanoid, and just like that, the young boy is on a quest to assassinate the empress. Kenshi faces off against the Empress's bodyguard, Kyayaflan and Wahanli, but completely overwhelms the opposing side. Though at the defining moment, Kenshi ends up backing off and choosing not to kill the Empress. He's then held captive, while the girls can't stop talking about his skills with the mech. Apparently, only women can pilot those mechas exceptionally well, and so a young man such as Kenshi was seen as an anomaly. But as this is going on, the doll comes and retrieves Kenshi. They tell him that there was never a way to return him back to Earth, and now they want to dispose of him since he was unable to carry out his mission, though they were severely underestimating Kenshi. He uses his martial arts skills, wreaks havoc among their ranks, and then successfully escapes by jumping off the airship. He gets rescued by a mech pilot named Aura, and returns to the Empress Lashara's floating ship named Swan. There they realize that Kenshi has been suffering from a rare disease that has actually put a time limit on his body. Unless he gets treated in the next 6 hours, he'll quite literally die. Two of them set out to go and find the Trium herbs, but end up getting intercepted by Doll. She's from that gang that brought Kenshi to Geminar. Doll proved to be a hassle, but they successfully find the herb, cure Kenshi, and then the airship makes its way to the Holy Land. Later, Empress Lashara makes Kenshi her servant after taking his skills into consideration while keeping the truth about him concealed. Once in the Holy Land, Kenshi sees the prestigious academy that the Empress and her aides attend. He gradually learns the way of things, meets interesting people, and also makes friends with them. Among them were Keia's older sister, Mexia, who helped with the herbs. He comes across the dark elf princess, Aura, while wandering the forest, and then also helps an enigmatic individual named Ulite with some stuff. Then we see Empress Lashara's cousin, named Maria, together with her assistant. And finally, Keia and Wahanli, the two bodyguards who tried to stop Kenshi from attacking the princess, are both appointed Sacred Mecha Masters, or to put it simply, they're recognized as the Holy Machine Wielders, the official guardians of the Holy Land. Following this, Empress Lashara makes it clear that Kenshi needs to work to earn his meals among other things, and so he's introduced to the esteemed headmistress of the prestigious Holy Land Academy. She assigns him all sorts of different tasks that he needs to take care of, and just like that, Kenshi has his hands full right on the first day. However, this was hardly a challenge for Masaki Kenshi. He exhibits extreme expertise in all that he does, and it doesn't take long before his name soars throughout all the staff rooms, and even the students at the academy. The Empress, on the other hand, witnesses herself just how much money Kenshi has earned in such a short amount of time, and of course, he's made to continue working. While he is working, Kenshi has to introduce himself to all sorts of individuals. Among them, there is also Lithia, the student council president. It must be nice to be surrounded by all these beautiful girls, am I right? Or am I right? Well, the full scope of this privilege is seen later when Mexia uses hypnotism on Kenshi and turns him into an efficient massaging machine. Kenshi then goes on to give massages to Keia, Aura, Lithia, Wahanli, Yukine, and a few more girls. However, the aftermath of these erotic massages doesn't end here. Later, when Mexia tries to make Kenshi run away with her, all the other girls launch a full-scale assault on him. The academy suffers some major damages, and they're all reprimanded once again. Poor Kenshi, having to put up with all these dangerous girls. Still, he continues to serve as the Empress's servant, all the while keeping up with not just work, but also the academics. Together, they also repair the damages they had previously done to the academy because of the after-massager withdrawals. The Empress and her cousin, Maria, also want to help, but their insane hopelessness when it comes to physical labor makes them a liability instead of an asset. Later, Maria realizes that her servant Yukine appears to be quite fond of Kenshi, and so she tries to see if she can set them up. Unfortunately, Kenshi already had too many girls who keep chasing him all day and every day. Eventually, this hustle slows down and Kenshi gets the time to share some bits and pieces of his past with Lashara and Kaya. During their conversation, Keiya ends up breaking the string on his present by accident. In order to make amends, she repairs it with a hand-woven cord made of a red string, but gets irrationally flustered and tries to take it back when she realizes how a red string symbolizes love. Another day, once again, Kenshi finds himself getting chased by all these refined beauties. Their numbers have risen now that he also has become part of the student council. Mexia tries to lay her hands on him, but Kenshi has become a master of making escapes at this point. But the girls weren't just going to sit around and give up. The underclassmen and the upperclassmen form an alliance. Their goal is, of course, to capture Kenshi. And how do they do that? By using the power of working together and great numbers. Things accelerate quickly, and before you know it, Kenshi has an epic cooking competition against the girls. It's about cooking a hot pot dish after gathering ingredients from the forest. Kenshi had better give it his all because what's on the line is his freedom. From there on out, it's just Kenshi flexing his skills until he comes face to face with Aura. She was the only one who was able to find actual edible ingredients. Still, Kenshi ends up winning regardless because of his secret ingredients. And when those secret ingredients are revealed, everyone is shocked except Aura. Well, to be fair, it wasn't anything corny, just some dried powder bugs which he used to make his soup taste better. Following this, Maria and Lashara receive an invitation from Maria's mother, the Queen of Heoniwa, Flora Nanadon, to come visit her. Among other guests, Kenshi was also included because it looks like Maria's mother is somewhat curious about this boy. Together, they're all on their way to the resort. He helps a couple of classmates elope, and they finally enter the Queen's territory. As expected, even the royal queen couldn't help but be enamored by Kenshi's charms. Together, they all go wild and have an epic pillow fight. But as they were all having fun, a group of bandits go after Dagmir, and the friend Kenshi has just helped in eloping with his girlfriend. But they don't succeed, and Dagmir decides to negotiate with their leader, Cordeline. Since the goal of the bandits was to acquire someone worth breeding, Dagmir offers his own seed to Cordeline so that she can give birth to a worthy pilot, but it didn't end here. Dagmir relays the way to the bandits, which a member of their ranks named Lan then uses to successfully infiltrate the Holy Land Academy. Subsequently, Dagmir then asks the student council to hold a warrior tournament. Of course, everyone naturally thinks Kenshi will win because he's the main character, and so the female students and staff, all of them bet on Kenshi to win the race. Just like that, the race begins, and once again, it ultimately comes down to a showdown between Aura and Kenshi. And then, as everyone continues to cheer them on, Kenshi overcomes Aura and wins the race. But the man couldn't stop and continued to run all throughout the Holy Land Academy. But it wasn't anything serious, just Keiya making casual threats. It was also her who finally stopped Kenshi. Once he stops, he falls right beside Aura. Ever since Aura first saved Kenshi from the fall and then from certain death, to all they have been through, Aura finally realizes just how madly she is in love with him. While he rests beside her, she gently bestows upon him a kiss. However, as youth was blooming on the grounds, Dagmir launches a full-scale assault together with the enemy forces. Not to mention, even all the male sacred mech masters end up allying themselves with Dagmir. Before long, they take over a major portion of the Holy Land. It's a dire situation in every sense of the word. On the other hand, we have all the female students who have no choice but to start evacuating since the vicinity has come under the control of Dagmir's father, named Babylon. But then, as everyone was under anxiety and distress, a man in a white sacred mechanoid named Kenshi finally reveals the true crux of his potential. Everyone is taken aback while this one man continues to wreak havoc and destroy enemy forces one by one. When he comes face to face with a black sacred mechanoid, everyone learns something quite shocking. The one controlling that black mech is none other than Keiya's older sister, Mexia. She's also the doll who also interfered when Kenshi was captured. Well, in actuality, she's just being controlled by Dagmir's father. Though regardless of the circumstances, the two of them fight. It's an intensely high-level duel where neither side seems to overpower the other. It's a draw. However, Babylon takes possession of the shield of Gaia and completely takes over the Holy Land. Kenshi and the others retreat but couldn't stop thinking about Mexia. The church and everyone else start contemplating how to take the Holy Land back from Babylon. While Lashara is conflicted, she had hidden Kenshi's true skills, but now that they have come to light, he has no reason to just continue being her servant. Other nations might also try to scout him. Keiya comes face to face with Dagmir and questions him about his betrayal. He gaslights Keiya and even tries to make her kill Kenshi, but of course she couldn't do it. She simply tells Dagmir as it is, she won't follow him. This gets her in danger, but thankfully the Empress's airship Swan enters the scene and tries to rescue Keiya from them. Kenshi wreaks havoc once again and defeats pretty much all of Dagmir's guards. He rescues Kaya, but that's when the doll once again enters the chat. She now has the Shield of Gaia. It's an unbreakable shield that can also be used for offensive purposes. This time, the doll manages to overwhelm Kenshi with her newly acquired offensive prowess. Kenshi and the others retreat on the swan and make their way to Shurifon, which is essentially Aura's home. Later that night, Kenshi and Kaya have a deep but brief little conversation. Kaya recalls the red cord she had imbued on his pendant, which that implied, and finally realizes that she also has feelings for him. Sooner than later, they arrive at Shurifon. Kenshi is immediately challenged to a duel by King Shurifon, or should I say Aura's father. It is essentially her father's way of seeing if Kenshi has what it takes to be a true warrior. Unsurprisingly, Kenshi passes with flying colors after beating the king at every step of the challenge. That is until the final step of the challenge. He barely misses out on first place. But when the king realizes how the reason he lost his shot at first place was because he was gathering rare mushrooms for the elves amidst the challenge, the king simply laughs and admits defeat. Not only that, but he also offers his daughter, Aura, to him as his bride. Meanwhile, Dagmir and Doll decide to attack Shurifon's castle. Though since everyone was focused on the competition between Kenshi and the king, nobody is harmed by the attack. The king then faces off against Dagmir, but the overwhelming force exhibited by the doll and the Shield of Gaia was too much for even the king. Fortunately, Kenshi jumps in at the last moment and saves the king. Babalune, on the other hand, was using transporters in each country's churches to launch sneak attacks from within. Kenshi and Kaya look around the area together when they rescue an escape pod from a church. Everyone then makes their way to Heoniwa, the kingdom ruled by Maria's mother. Though once there, they find the capital city destroyed. This time, it's Cortaline's bandits. They take control over the capital and even got their hands on a gigantic defensive weapon called Meteor Fall. It's even bigger than the Swan and is able to drop humongous boulders on things below. Of course, they use it at Swan, but Yukine comes to the rescue with her sacred mechanoid at the very last second and saves the day. This allows Kenshi the opportunity to go destroy the bandits and also recover that weapon. Later, they enter an underground territory where they reconcile with Maria and her mother Flora. Then, in a heated debate, a burning question rises to the surface. Who does Kenshi belong to? Well, who is it? Kenshi is unsure at first, but after some consultation, he realizes that, of course, he belongs to Lashara. She did earnestly request him to stay by her side, though, so he assures her that whatever happens, he will always protect her. Though following this, Kenshi does something unexpected. He actually buys the Swan from the Empress and proceeds to make this airship an independent state, where anyone and everyone can take refuge. Now, remember the friend Kenshi helped elope with his girlfriend? I'm talking about Ceres, who also was the target of the bandits. Well, as everyone is traveling on the Swan, they find Ceres in danger. He's being attacked by sacred mech masters. Kenshi quickly rushes to his aid, but ends up falling into a trap together with Ceres. They're inside a reactor which is about to explode. This makes Kenshi genuinely angry. Half of his sacred mechanoid starts turning black as he casually compresses the reactor and throws it away. He then attacks their hideout while Ceres, Kaya, and Aura go to rescue Ceres' girlfriend, Hazuki. Kenshi's anger becomes his driving force, and he utterly destroys all of the sacred mechanoids. When one of the enemy mechanoids is disabled, he throws them off the cliff right to their death. He did injure himself a little, but the consequences of his assault gave Dagmir PTSD. Anyway, Ceres and his girlfriend join the Swan as refugees, and everyone then takes off to go meet Nawa Flan, or should I say Kaya's father. He's a prominent member of the Barrier Workshop, who then goes on to shed light on some sacred mechanoid history. He talks about Sacred Mech Master, Sacred Mecha Lord, and even about Doll, who is of course his own daughter, Mexia. The man also mentions a forgotten warrior. It was something about Kenshi, but he couldn't say it in front of them. However, later, when Doll and the bandits also make a visit, everyone retreats back to Swan and makes their escape. Though amidst the situation, the doll learns of what her father was unable to say about Kenshi. Meanwhile, our guys go to Yukine's village and add more sources of power to their ranks. There, they find a monolith sacred rock, which they then turn into a crude stone sword using Kenshi's abilities. Once the sword is ready, Kenshi is easily able to take out the enemy faction under Lan in nothing but a single swing. He's then reunited with the student council president, Lithia, as well as other members of the Holy Land Academy. Naturally, they all want his attention, but the man couldn't take it anymore and ends up collapsing because of all the pent-up fatigue. And now that he was asleep, everyone sort of reminisces how Kenshi has been helping them despite not being a part of their battle. King Shufudon and Queen Flora enter the chat and reveal that Aura and Maria will be engaged to Kenshi. Going back to Kenshi, Mexia sneakily pays him a visit and drops some shocking bits of revelation. He's actually the product of an artificial being. Doll can't attack or subdue him because it's the nature of the three artificial beings to not kill each other. They are programmed to be together. However, she was still being controlled by Babaloon. She places some object that projects Babaloon before them, and just like he did with Mexia, he tries to take control of Kenshi. Little did he know, Kenshi is just an offspring. His mother, Ryo-Oki, has only lent him her pendant. Still, Babaloon's takeover appears to be working. That is, until his Masaki blood, his mother's crystal that was in the pendant, and of course his own willpower completely throw off any and all attempts at trying to control him. Seeing how their plan to take over Kenshi had failed, Mexia then proceeds to make a move on the Swan. She takes out the anti-gravity controls that were sent to hold the monolith sword. It was a disaster. Even though the monolith stone had been compressed so much, it still weighed the same. The Swan was going to get absolutely wrecked. Kenshi gets into his mech by using his own strength. He withstands the weight until the anti-gravity bands have been restored. Following this, it's the final confrontation against Babaloon. All the various nations ally themselves for the sole purpose of taking him down before he revives the sacred Mecha Lord Gaia. Kenshi and everyone else on the Swan quickly rush to stop him from reviving Gaia. Dagmir briefly tries to stop them, but gets wrecked by Kenshi. But maybe because of it, Gaia was fully revived and is being piloted by Doll. It's certainly the worst case scenario, the Mech Lord has been revived. But much to everyone's dismay, Kenshi is somehow able to fight on par with Doll. That is, until Babaloon also emerges with Gaia, and becomes even stronger. He now becomes able to overpower Kenshi, but the Gaia was still amidst regeneration. Kenshi sees it as an opportunity to go all out. The battle heats up, and while exchanging these heavy blows, Kenshi somehow manages to overhear Mexia's plea for help. This causes Kenshi to finally lose it and go berserk. He conjures a light hawk sword and decimates the core of Gaia, hence in turn saving Mexia from Babaloon's grasp. Of course, she has also fallen head over heels for our boy Kenshi. In his final attempt to lay waste to Kenshi, Babaloon emerges once again, but this time he's killed by Ulite, who had already betrayed him at that workshop. Ulite's true identity is Ria's second, and she is also one of the three artificial beings. And then, in the aftermath of this battle, all the girls scream. They want his affection. We're talking about Lashara, Maria, Yukina, Mexia, Kaya, Wahan, and Aura. But not just them, there's also the student council president, Lithia, among all the other girls in the academy, who also seek marriage rights to Kenshi. It's a disaster, but in a good way. In the end, it's decided that whoever catches Kenshi first gets to be with him. A bizarre conclusion to a bizarre story. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this, so I'll see you at the next one.